Are you super bummed because you're sitting here sweltering and sweating when it is supposed to be sweater weather? And if you're like me, living in Arizona or another warm climate, you probably feel like you're totally missing out on all of these great fall and winter pattern ideas. So join me because I'm going to be sharing some little tweaks that you can do to still partake in all of this great sweater weather season and still get something that is not going to make you sweat at the same time. And if you like this kind of content, invite the like button on your next yarn shopping haul and make them buy all the itchy, scratchy stuff instead of the nice, wonderful, soft, luxurious yarns that you're going to use. All right, let's dive in. So, this time of year for me living in Arizona is really tough. And right now it is unseasonably warm here. Right now, this time of year, we're usually in the 80s or so, and we are hitting 100 plus degrees, even some 110 plus degrees, and it's October. So it's just insane. We're like sweltering over here. And I know that there's a lot of other places in the country and around the world that are really hot this time of year, but it's also the time of year that we start seeing all of these great patterns for hats and scarves and sweaters. And we're sitting here like, are you kidding me? I want to take clothes off. I don't want to put more warm, fuzzy things on. But pumpkin spice is like that's the time of year you want to be doing all these fun things. This is when we should be enjoying those fall colors and crisp evenings around the fire. And for that reason, I pulled together a bunch of patterns that I thought would be a great sort of spin for those of us that are in the warmer climates, that we can still enjoy some of this fall season and winter season and sweater weather, but without the sweat. So that's what this is all about. And we're going to start with talking about yarn choices. So, oftentimes when we think of sweater weather, we start thinking about things like the wools or the chunky yarns that we're going to wrap ourselves in, and it's going to be nice and cozy. And my argument here is going to be that is going to keep you nice and cozy and continue to make you sweat.
I'm sweating here.
Ditch those heavier weight yarns or the wools and those kind of things and go more towards the lightweight yarns, the fingering, the sport, and even the DK. And look to things like the cottons and the bamboos that are going to breathe a little bit more for you. When you make sweaters out of these lighter weight yarns, you can still have a sweater, but it's not as toasty as some of the warmer yarns might be. So that's really going to be your first tip, is to really switch up the yarns that you're thinking about and look for patterns that call for yarns that are lighter in weight. Oftentimes these are going to be things that are billed as spring or summer sweaters, because most people in other areas might wear them in the crisp evening time when it gets a little bit of a chill in the air, but it's been warm all day. We're going to wear this time of year because that's when we get that slightly crisp feel in the air in the evening, but it's still warm all day. So think about, when you're looking for patterns, spring or summer wear that are still billed as sweaters, but they're lighter in weight than what we would normally think of as a winter or a fall sweater. And I've actually curated several different patterns for you to consider. I like these, but this is just sort of a starting place. So don't limit yourself to these, but consider these as an inspiration, a starting point, a jump off point for you. And I'll explain why I picked the ones that I did so that you have some idea of what to look for when you're looking for your own patterns. The first step is this Tropaz sweater. Now, I really like this one for a couple of different reasons. One is because it does use that fingering weight yarn, and two is because it's more of a mesh. So mesh is going to be really our friend here. It's going to have more breathability. It's not going to be as warm and toasty. So it can, we're still wearing a sweater and we get that sweater vibe without the heat retention that a normal sweater might have for us. The granny stitch on this is creating that mesh appearance for us. So it's not a traditional kind of mesh like a lacy mesh, but we still have the holes that allow for that breathability. So this is a great pattern option from Suzanne Mueller, and that's available on the Ravelry store. So I will link to that, of course. I'll link to all of these, so I don't have to keep repeating it. You know, the links are in the comments below. And I'm not making any money on all of these. These are not affiliate links. These are just patterns that I've selected that I think would be great for this purpose. And next up, we have the Crochet Spring Mesh Sweater by Crochet with Carrie. I've actually made this one before in this blue color. In fact, it was one of the very first garments that I made. Maybe it was the second. I think I did a granny square campfire cardigan first, and this might have been the second one that I made. Now, obviously, the teal doesn't give those fall vibes, which is another great yarn tip, and that's the color that you select. So if you're picking fall vibe colors or whatever happens to be in season, then that's going to change the impression that that sweater gives. Instead of giving that spring, Easter, bright colors vibe, then something that is more muted or more of a burnt orange or browns or, the mustard yellows, that might be a fall vibe. Some of the creams or off whites or light blues that are kind of like an icy blue might give more of a winter vibe. So mixing up the color is going to make a significant difference in how that particular garment feels and what season it feels like it's in. Really consider the color that you're choosing, even if the actual pattern says that it's for the spring. Your color choice can significantly change that impression. I like the mesh because it's not warm and toasty and it doesn't kind of retain all of the heat. So it's great for that. But this has more of a crisscross design to it. So I really liked it, and it was a lot of fun pattern to do. Next up from TL Yarn Craft, we have the Issa cardigan. Now this is a great time of year for cardigans. We start thinking about layering those kind of things so that we can take them off if we're warmer and put them back on when we're cooler without messing up our hair and getting all of those problems. And the Issa cardigan is also a mesh pattern, so it gives that ability to not be quite as warm and toasty while still giving the impression that you have a cardigan. The Helios poncho from Two of Wands is another great pattern that I really love. Not quite sure why she called it a poncho, because it doesn't actually go over the head. It's more open in the front. But I love this because it uses a lightweight yarn. It has a lot of detail to it. And it's a longer sweater without having sleeves. So you get that vibe of having the warmer weather outfit without all of the heat retention that might be on your arms if you have a longer type of sweater that covers all the way down to your arms. So I think this is a great option too. And then the Serenity sweater by Two Brothers Blankets is a really cool mesh style sweater, but instead of just a straight mesh, it's more of a lacy. So it still has all the holes and the airiness that we're going for here, but with more style and more flair and more decorative. So it's got more appeal in that sense. It's more dressy than casual, like some of the other mesh sweaters that we've chosen are. So this is also a great option if you want something that is a little bit more dressy. And because it's got the 3/4 sleeves, it's not going all the way down. It still gives that sweater impression without the longer sleeves. And then MJ's Off the Hook Designs has this granny pop hoodie that I think is adorable. This also uses the granny stitch to give that airy feel to it, but it includes a hoodie, which I love me a good hoodie. They are so much fun. And it has pockets. So you've got the cardigan with the pockets and the hoodie. It just checks all of the boxes for me, and it's a lot of fun. And again, mix up the colors so that you have different color vibes. And something like this, you could actually almost use a variegated or a tonal or something that has a little bit more character to the yarn, or even layer the yarn so that you're doing different colors as you go and give it more of a striped effect. So lots of fun options there. Now, if you're thinking more sweater weather is hats and shawls and cowls and scarves, you can still enjoy sweater weather without those kind of things. And one idea is when you're thinking hats, instead of those really thick, warm, chunky hats, think of something more like a slouchy hat. Like this one from Rebecca House, the slouchy hat. I'm actually working on this one right now, and you can see how that's working up. This is the unique yarn that I purchased in Tennessee, I think it was. I love the way that this is working up. It's really beautiful. And this is just kind of a slouchy hat, sort of like this. This is a page boy, newsboy kind of hat. So think about hats like that. You can still wear a hat without something that's going to really keep your head warm. And when you're thinking of these, again, think about those things that are holey, that have, mesh type things, or that are more airy, so you can, that kind of really serves itself with crochet anyway. So just embrace the crochet concept here and do something that has more holes in it, because that's going to let your head air out instead of retaining all of that heat. So this one by Rebecca House is a great option. This time of year, fingerless gloves are all the rage. I personally don't get them because if I want to have gloves on, I want my fingertips to be warm too. But I understand that we need to use our phones, and so maybe that's why. And maybe if I lived in a cold climate, they would make a lot more sense to me. But you can still enjoy making fingerless gloves. Again, lean more on patterns that use more of a lace weight or a fingering weight yarn instead of some of the chunkier weight yarns, the worsted and the Aran and beyond that. That way you have something that's not going to keep you quite as warm and toasty, but it's still going to give the visual effect of having something that is warm and toasty. So this icy thistle fingerless gloves pattern is from Came Crochet Patterns, and I will link to that pattern on Etsy. Now, from Chrissy's Over the Mountain Crochet, we have this chunky yarn bucket hat. And I know I've told you to avoid the chunky yarns, but sometimes they're just so appealing. So instead of having a hat that's going to hold tight to your head, then you can consider using chunky yarn for something like a bucket hat that's just going to kind of sit on your head. It's not going to keep as much heat in because it's not snug fitting, but it still uses that cute, thick, chunky yarn and gives you that great wintry kind of vibe without as much heat retention. And sometimes we want to just, kind of use that chunky yarn no matter what, or something that's warm and fuzzy looking and feeling. And that's when we can go to some of the other accessories like purses, sort of like this Share Crossbody purse by Two of Wands. So we get our warm fuzzy in our accessories instead of in our primary garments that are supposed to keep us warm. So think of that also as an inspiration kind of point, where you're thinking of using the accessories, the purses and the bags and those kind of things to exude that warm, fuzzy, toasty fall sweater weather kind of vibe. And then, of course, we might not need a scarf, and even shawls aren't going to be something that we're going to need to keep us warm, but there are a million beautiful shawl patterns available using very lightweight yarns like fingering and lace weight, similar to this virus shawl that's really, really popular, and it's a free pattern on Hobie's website This uses some variegated yarn, some that changes color as you go, and it's just stunning. But because it's a very lightweight yarn, it's not going to keep a lot of warmth in, and it can really dress up either a short sleeve or a long sleeve outfit that you're wearing, a dress that you're wearing, something like that, and just select colors that are very fall or wintry to get more of that vibe, or do a darker color if you're brave enough to use dark colors that's going to give you more of an evening vibe. Use something that is darker and maybe has a little glitter in it. That would look wonderful to dress up an evening outfit without having to have a nice warm snug coat. And then, at the end of the day, if these patterns just aren't grabbing you, if you're still like, it just feels too warm to do anything like that, look to your decor. And now I'm not gonna there's tons of patterns out there for pumpkins and stocking stuffers and stockings, and you can dream it up, and there's a million different patterns out there for your home decor that is very seasonal. And a lot of times that's the best way to really avoid sweaters during the sweater weather season. Lean on crocheting decor instead of crocheting garments. Problem solved. So if that's kind of what you like to do, then really lean into that. This is really a popular time of year for holiday and fall and seasonal decor of all types. So just because it is still 100 plus degrees here in October doesn't mean that I have to avoid fall sweater weather. I get to make some amazing garments. I lean on mesh, I lean on short sleeves, I lean on lightweight yarns, and I just go for colors that are more fall oriented. That's the way that I do it, and I think that it is just a great opportunity to expand your wardrobe in ways that you might not be able to go to the store and expand your wardrobe, because they're not going to have these mesh items in fall colors when normally those kind of things are going to be spring and summer type wear. You get to make whatever color you want with whatever pattern you want. So tell me, what are your favorite sweater patterns or other fall and winter makes that are still going to keep you a little bit on the cool side and not make you overheated? What are your favorite ideas and tips and strategies for those? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you like this content, make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay tuned to all of the tips and you have content that you can watch the next time you're working on your favorite fall sweater. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.